All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us on today's newest feature of one of our technology partners, Springboard, powered by the folks over at Jackson River. I'm really excited to have Seth Merritt on the line today and Jenny Corman as well to continue our Spotlight series on the latest and greatest in nonprofit purpose-built technology that really helps to power your mission and what you're trying to do to change the world. So thanks for joining us. Quick opener, just who we have here today. Again, we've got Seth Merritt on the line, who's the Director of Business Development at Springboard. Seth and I have known each other in the social impact technology space for a long time now, and we actually got to know each other back, I think when we were both working at the same company together. So good to have you here today, Seth, and welcome. We've also been joined today by Jenny Corman, also on the Springboard team. Jenny is the VP of Operations and Technology Initiatives and a computer scientist and civil rights champion. Hello, Jenny, how are you?
Well, it's exciting to be here today. I love talking Springboard.
Awesome, cool. Well, I'm super excited to see it. Seth and I have talked a little bit about it lately, so today we're gonna give some other listeners a little sneak peek into what you guys are doing. And I wanna just, again, real quick, set the stage about why we're here. So, and how do a company like Firefly and Springboard really work together. So at Firefly, we're a digital marketing agency, and we help organizations really think about the right technology for your goals and desired outcomes from a fundraising and messaging perspective. And so we really think about the fact that a lot of people are living kind of like us these days in this very hyper-connected world behind a computer screen or behind a phone screen. And one of the things about digital is that even though we're all like hyper-connected, a lot of digital experiences can actually feel very disconnected. And so through this technology spotlight series, we continue to show some of the tools and systems and platforms that can take, traditional thinking about digital fundraising like this and turn it more into thinking about how you're actually connecting with people who show up to your events, or in a past life showed up to your events, who are communicating with you because they really care about what you're doing, and they're the people who are powering your mission, empowering your impact through their time that they give to you and through their financial support that they give to you. And so when we talk about technology and marketing and how all of it works together, we really like to think about the fact that each support of yours is a unique, beautiful human, and human to human digital is what we want to do. We want to take all of the systems like Springboard and like some of the other tools that you've seen and use the technology to really build the right communication pathways. And so I'm really excited that Seth's going to be getting into a lot around how Springboard does this and how Springboard is powering this kind of a deep connection by using the right technology to power the right communications and the right fundraising and all of that good stuff that makes everything go around. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Seth. And Seth, I've got a couple questions for you to tee up sort of like what you're going to be talking today. And these are some of my big questions as we're thinking about, okay, how do you take the technology to do those things, to build those deeper connections? So things you'll be walking through today are how can Springboard really power connection with my constituents? Talk about the types of campaigns that I could run with Springboard, because I'd like to see that in action. And then kind of talk to us a little bit about implementation, what an organization can expect and what that looks like. Does that sound like a good plan?
That sounds great. So I'll be doing most of the talking. Jenny's here as kind of a technical subject matter expert to keep me honest, as it were. Yeah, let me go ahead and jump in and share my screen.
And please, folks, keep this interactive. If you have questions that come up throughout the webinar, please type those into the chat, and we will make sure we get all of your questions answered today that you have for Seth and Jenny and the Springboard team.
Great. So just let me verify, are you seeing my screen? You should be seeing a a peaceful, relaxing scene of
Very
some,
peaceful.
yeah. So let me go ahead and just, before I get into, any intense slideware, just, tailor some of your questions and just talk about how, all of us are kind of meeting this moment that we're in. So, Springboard powers connections with constituents really through personalization, and that enables recognition. And we'll get into the mechanics of that, but we have a really robust and very flexible platform that works within a technology ecosystem designed to work with a single CRM. So we often talk about taking a digital first approach, which essentially means working in an omni-channel world and breaking down the silos of different channels and getting away from channel-specific CRM systems. And so we have more information around that. We have a Holy Grail white paper that I encourage folks to go to the website and download. And so we'll talk more about exactly how we help folks connect with the constituents, but it's really that personalized approach where you're able to connect a lot of data, iterate on what you're doing, and personalize your outreach. In terms of the types of campaigns you can run with Springboard, again, we'll dig into this, but fundraising is a core application, including a lot of robust features around sustainers, premiums, and one-click donations and sustainer upsells and so on. We'll get into a lot of that, but very robust fundraising, advocacy, federal, state, and local, peer-to-peer campaigns for do-it-yourself, virtual fundraising, and ticketed events, as well as sort of generic data capture. So those are the types of campaigns. And in terms of implementation, we'll talk a little bit about this, but we take a very tailored, high-touch approach. So backing up a little bit, just in terms of how we're all meeting this moment, as it were, Brene Brown, who's a kind of an influential, I don't know, sort of I don't know what, an anti-shame guru, sort of a person who helps a lot of people live their best lives. She's a speaker on on the level of Oprah, et cetera. Anyway, she said something at the beginning of the pandemic that this is such an important reminder of how we are all connected, and we've all kind of realized that in different ways. In some sense, we're all connected through our breath, and which is how this pandemic is spreading. But in more positive ways, we're connected through the dynamic medium of the internet. And what's really changed is that we can be everywhere at any time. Essentially, your organization can be present to your supporters anywhere over the through the globe. Your adversaries, your people working on the other side of an issue, are out there at the same time. Your supporters are on their mobile. The medium will continue to evolve into wearables, Internet of Things, and so on. So it's that ability to connect that really inspires our work at a high level. Another aspect of what we're all going through right now really is this reckoning that we're going through with the legacy of systemic racism in our society, not only in the United States but in the world. And what this is, I think, teaching all of us is that we have to listen and learn, and that we all have to find our own capacity to lead. As well. We're, humans are we're a social species. We're all just always looking at what everybody else is doing. And so what nonprofits do is essentially create the ability for individuals to associate and make meaning and create purpose in their lives. And so that's deeply rooted in Jackson River's DNA. That's how we started. That's why we started, to be able to empower nonprofits to leverage the power of these commercial grade marketing tools to leverage the power of the internet for social purpose. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I often, and I'll just say, you know, I'm a white man. I often use the word privilege because I do feel very privileged to work in this milieu, to play a small part in the role of helping nonprofits make sure they're using the right tools that are going to help them meet their mission. So a little bit about how we work. And again, this gets into some of those questions, Taylor, that you were starting us off with. We take a very high touch approach. We've developed Springboard as a platform through an iterative consultative process. We've grown selectively, working with clients that we feel are really going to be a good fit for us. And candidly, we often in the evaluation process end up referring folks to other tools if it seems like they're not going to be a good fit for us. When we scope out our implementations with clients, we really look carefully at what you're going to need in terms of not just the front end presentation, but how your data is going to be flowing into your CRM. And we'll talk about this more, but our system is really built on top of the Salesforce platform. We do integrate with other databases, but that's our kind of core use case, is nonprofits that are using Salesforce, and our team is highly skilled at Salesforce. We're also nonprofit veterans, so we've worked in the trenches. We know the tech and we know the work that you're trying to do. So a typical implementation could go from 6 to 16 weeks. It's going to depend based on the level of complexity of your front end presentation, how many templates you're going to need to set up, as well as any complexities around your back office, your data flows, and any customizations in your data structure. And one thing I really want to emphasize here is in terms of how we support our clients, we don't subject our clients to a faceless ticket queue or a 1-800 number. When we work through the implementation with you, the same team that is assigned to do your deployment with you, that gets to know you, is then also your designated point of contact for ongoing support. So this really creates a powerful partnership, and we act as an extension of your digital team. So speaking of acting as an extension of your team, I wanted to talk also a little bit about the types of organizations that use Springboard. So we are pleased and honored to be working with these organizations among others. And the types of organizations that have typically really found Springboard to be a good fit are those that are that want to break the boundaries of systems that will only provide a cookie cutter digital experience. So nonprofits that are really wanting to anchor their efforts around a single CRM to really push the boundaries of personalization and relationship building, and folks that want to be able to tailor a digital experience as part of stepping stones in building relationships of meaning and value over time. So essentially, we're very pleased to work with a set of ambitious nonprofits that want to innovate with us in that kind of gap between the powerful commercial tools that we're all, that's the water that we swim in nowadays, the, Amazon, Google, Facebook, that level of personalization. We give our clients the ability to play at that level, and at the same time we fill in the gaps and really provide a tool set built for nonprofits. So let's talk about that tool set. So we are the only digital first platform that provides all these capabilities for Salesforce. Now, as I mentioned before, we work with other CRM systems. Our data model is mapped to the common data model for Microsoft Dynamics CRM. We have a number of other clients that use other CRM systems, but our primary use case is really around using Salesforce as a CRM. As you can see in this diagram here, we power the digital engagement, that transactional side of the client relationship, or excuse me, the supporter relationship with the organization. So it's that fundraising interaction, the advocacy ask. The data flows directly into Salesforce. So that's another thing I want to talk about is we don't have middleware. Our platform writes directly into Salesforce. So that's an important differentiation between many other platforms out there, many of which have, you know, good integrations with Salesforce or other CRMs. But what we're able to do then is, because we're writing detailed supporter and transaction data directly into Salesforce, then you can power personalized outreach that is hard to duplicate when you don't have that live connection. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but essentially by anchoring our data in one system, you can unify online and offline information in a donor portal, for example. You can anchor a personalized ask string, not just around gifts that have been made online, but your online and offline giving history. And by linking up our system with commercial grade marketing tools, you can send personalized links that are not reliant on our system's ability to keep up with the market, but where you can integrate the ever evolving set of outbound marketing tools that exist. So essentially, we're letting you use the power of Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Salesforce Pardot, or any number of other systems that integrate closely with Salesforce for that outbound outreach. So let me go ahead and switch over to some examples.
Awesome. And hey, Seth, there's a question that came in. I don't know if you want to answer that now and answer it later, but from Marcus, he's
Sure.
wondering if there's been any thought given to adding in like a donor or supporter portal as part of the feature set of Springboard. So maybe you can speak into, you know, capabilities, or if you know what can be done around that kind of a portal.
Yeah, absolutely. We have and we do. So
Awesome.
That's one of the things that we'll show you is a donor portal. So let's go ahead and show some examples of fundraising. So that's kind of, as I mentioned, kind of a core use case, and then advocacy, a little bit of peer-to-peer and events, and then we'll get into the back end of the system as well, just to give you a taste of how you do content authoring and reporting. So ACLU, a prominent client of ours, also where Jenny came from, or previous to Jackson River. So this is an example of a web form that's embedded into their homepage. One thing that's interesting to observe is how the, sorry about that, how the payment methods can be modified depending on what the gift mode is. We'll talk a bit about monthly giving. Obviously, it's a really critical mode of fundraising for all nonprofits, just to maintain sustainability and have predictable income. And so our system is really, Springboard is really built to help acquire more sustaining donors, to retain them, and to streamline your management of them. So again, part of taking this digital first approach and really meeting their supporters where they are is having the ability to say, okay, well, I want to give my donors PayPal as a payment method, but operationally managing PayPal payments on a monthly basis is not worth the trouble, or it's not an option that we want to promote, let's say. So our tools give you the flexibility to select which payment methods are available. And as you can see, the giving levels obviously vary there. Another example from the ACLU a donation page where, again, this is a fairly simple single column design that's been tested into they've tried to test away from this over time and just found that this has been the best approach. Again, now looking at not just the mode in terms of one time or monthly, but looking at the context of giving. Is this person on a desktop or are they on a tablet or mobile? So the ACLU made the decision to only offer PayPal when users are on mobile. So again, that level of flexibility exists with the tools as well. So another example here, just of the ability to personalize or tailor the experience and optimize it, I should say, around different screen widths. ASPCA, where you have a multi-step form on the desktop view. When you go to the tablet width, you still have this multi-step visual metaphor, but it's buttonized, optimized for that width. And then when you go to mobile, it turns into a single page form. Again, this is optimized based on years of testing and observation of user behavior. So one thing that's important, one element, let's say, in a sophisticated direct response fundraising program is premiums or thank you gifts. There's often debate in the industry about, whether that's an ideal thing to use, but part of what we do at Springboard is we've really listened to our clients. And so as we've moved into the public media space, for example, as well as other types of nonprofits that use premiums, we've built out the features to support that. So Marketplace, a great show. I highly encourage folks to listen to it through your local NPR station or online. In the public media space, premiums are often used to acquire new donors or to spur a renewal. So this page, again, we offer the one-time and the monthly donations at different levels. And then there's an option. The default is, I don't want to give a gift, let all my donation go. But then you've got a couple of tempting options here. Let's say I decide, I'm going to give a monthly donation, but maybe I just want to start at $5 a month. And then I look down here and I've been watching Kai and Molly on the Make Me Smart afternoon YouTube live, where they often enjoy a beverage. I think, that'd be kind of cute, have a beverage here. I click on this. The Springboard donation form is smart enough to know that the donation amount was actually not enough to warrant that premium. It gives me fair notice and increases my gift to $10 a month, which I can change or not. So in terms, again, getting into other examples of highly tailored donation form experiences, we have Islamic Relief USA. And this type of web form might not be ideal for many organizations, but we often show it just to illustrate the flexibility of our system. And this is an example of a nonprofit really knowing their audience, where in the Islamic tradition of charity, often their supporters will be giving to multiple funds or giving multiple gifts at the same time. So there's kind of a shopping cart metaphor. So you could be looking at zakat for a particular country. Let's say I'm going to give $25 to Afghanistan. I add it to the cart. It gives me a summary at the bottom of the page. Let's say it's important for our family to sponsor an orphan. I'm going to do that as well. So then I go down here, I see what my summary is, and there's also an option to upgrade the donation. So that's something that is built into Springboard, the ability to do an upsell or to cover your fees right at the point of transaction. So you know, this form, again, it's designed to do some scrolling. I hope that's not making folks too dizzy. This client also uses the one-click donations feature. So I'm sorry for all the scrolling, folks. I'm just going to go down to the bottom here. So this page, I've logged in here to simulate what this page would look like if you had clicked on a personalized link. So this pre-populates with my colleague Watt Hamlet's information here, and it actually, for a credit card gift, because Watt has already given their gift and authorized future payments, what we display here are the cosmetic aspects of the credit cards, the last four and the date, and we don't store the personal information, but it's tokenized through our system so that this gift could be made essentially with a single click. Another aspect of just while we're talking about Islamic Relief is the ability I was mentioning before to have, or the question was asked, I should say, about donor portal. So this is the donor portal. As you can see, it's branded and tailored to Islamic Relief. And this displays the information. I can edit my profile, including my personal information if I'm moving, and I can see my donation history. So in 2018, Watt made a gift, or that was actually one of these combined gifts, and did that online. And then in 2019, he gave a gift via mail reply. And that's also recorded here. And again, this is I should mention that this is a capability that's primarily available to clients that are using Salesforce as their CRM with Springboard. And this, you can print out a receipt that for the gift. And I can also print out an annual tax receipt, which can be useful if you have multiple gifts within a single calendar year. And again, all of this content can be tailored per client. So I mentioned before the upsell capability. So just in the interest of time, I'm just going to show you quickly American Jewish Committee. Their form has a sustainer upsell, and there's different modes that you can use. I'll give you a peek at that when we're looking at the back end. But when you make a one-time gift, as you're making the gift, it pops up an upsell that basically says, would you like to make this gift monthly? And you have the option to either make that initial gift, the initial monthly gift at this time, or a month later. That's an administrator preference that you can set. So again, this is just a demonstration of how our system is really designed to facilitate monthly giving, both acquisition and retention. While we're looking at monthly giving, here's another example, again, just to answer the question about the donor portal. This is a different client, UNICEF, and looking at recurring gifts, we can see that that this gift is coming up. There's another gift that will be coming up actually tomorrow, and there's different settings that you can do that would allow a donor to either suspend a payment, to change their donor information, or to cancel the gift, and those things can be enabled or disabled. Taylor, let me just pause and hear if there's any questions at this point.
Yeah, no, great. While you're on the donor portal, a question has come in. I'm assuming that can also handle like an ongoing membership, like recurring gift or recurring membership in that portal.
Yes, exactly. Like recurring donations could be handled in this. So you would see your history as well as any future gifts that are coming up and be able to. Yeah, and go ahead, Jenny.
memberships, we do have some clients using the donor portal today for memberships. So when you're viewing that giving history, that's highly customizable in terms of what it pulls from Salesforce. So you can always pull additional information like a column for a member sense or your member ID or something like that. And that's something that our clients who are more membership focused, like many of our public media clients are doing today.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's a good example of where you might want to use some of those. So Marcus, hopefully that answers your question. Awesome.
Great. So I'll try and, yeah, please keep the questions coming. It's great. I'll try and speed it up here a little bit in the interest of time. There's so much to show. Another thing, I mentioned the personalization. So just again, to demonstrate that, this is our demo site. So, you know, it's nothing too fancy, but we use it for some examples here. So if I landed on the Save Old Smoky page without being logged in, or, you know, just as a new supporter, these are the default ask strings that I would see. But if I received an email with a personalized link bringing me back, I would see a different experience where I would be logged back in, and obviously my information here would be pre-populated. If the one-click feature was enabled, potentially I could even be seeing that. But even slightly more importantly, as you can see, the ask string is personalized based on this donor record having a highest previous gift of $50. So you can set the system up to look at each individual's record and then include or invoke a personalized ask string depending on their giving history. So that way you can automate your outreach, you can do your campaigns, and at the same time not risk downgrading your donors that are already, you know, important to your support, that are giving to you at a higher level. So let's quickly bounce through a couple of other features. I mentioned that we do have a do-it-yourself peer-to-peer tool. So this, just a quick preview of it, quick overview. The ASPCA uses our peer-to-peer tool to power, among other types of campaigns, memorial campaigns. That's been an important source of support, either when a loved one dies, either a human or a companion animal. The ability to memorialize them is important. So here's a sample of a personal campaign page. As you can see, you can set a goal and see your progress against the goal. You can see recent donors and so on. And then people can make comments. You can select whether or not to display those, etc. So there's a lot of options here. I should mention our peer-to-peer tool is not really designed as an event-based fundraising tool, really, but it is a good fit for the more creative, let's say, do-it-yourself peer-to-peer fundraising, which is, as we all know, pretty important these days. So let me just browse to a different window here. So one of the important modes for us to, one of the important ways that our clients engage with their supporters to make change in the world is through advocacy. And we allow several different forms of that. And I know Firefly, you know, has a fair amount of experience with advocacy as well, and many of the folks who are listening to this now or in the future may be interested in this. So this is an example of one of our comment pages where you're able to send a message to Congress. As I mentioned before, our advocacy tool allows federal, state, and local targets, as well as custom targets. We also have the ability for you to use Twitter as an advocacy tool, and we do enable phone actions. So this could be probably the fodder for a whole demo itself, but just wanted to show a couple of quick examples. This is Food and Water Watch asking for a moratorium on water shutoffs during the pandemic. Again, you can see here some of the form is editable in terms of the comment, and some is locked down. It's highly flexible, and the fields that you're collecting are very flexible as well. I mean, if you're doing something that requires a federal action, usually it requires your full physical address. This is an example of a form where it's asking for a phone number but not requiring it, and then it is also asking for your opt-in to receive future messages. Another feature this is another example of a petition type campaign where, again, this ability to set a goal helps often to spur more activity around it. And this is a simple petition, so it's not asking for full address. And if someone is a returning supporter, all you have to do is enter your email address, and you don't have to re-enter your information. And also, forms can be enabled to show recent support, and that again helps to, spur that sense of belonging and relationship, and that people, that causes people to join nonprofits and to support them. That feeling of unity and purpose. Here's another example of the ability to generate tweets. This was, and I pre-filled the form, but this is a different mode of advocacy where maybe you're not going directly using a message to an elected official, but you want to use the power of influence through social media. So that's an example of how somebody can sign up, and then you can essentially pre-write tweets and engage them in this process. Another thing just to quickly mention was ticketed events. This is just a quick example. Obviously, right now, a lot of events, physical events have been canceled, but we do have the basic capability to allow people to register for a ticketed event. We're not competing with Cvent or Eventbrite, but it is, there are advantages for simple events to transacting that with the same system that you're using for fundraising and advocacy and so on. So you have the ability to, set ticket levels. Your supporters will see, what their tickets are, and the form progressively elaborates based on the choices that they make over time. So highly configurable. Looking at the clock, we want to make sure we show you some of the back end of the system. But before I do, Taylor, let me just pause and ask if there's any other questions.
I don't see any other questions that have come in. So yeah, I would say let's get in the back end and look under the hood. Okay,
great. So as I mentioned before, Springboard is a platform that integrates very tightly with Salesforce. It is its own system. It's not built in Salesforce, but we have a managed package that you would install into your Salesforce instance that creates custom objects and tailored fields that enables our system to write directly into your Salesforce instance. And during your configuration, during your implementation, we go through a careful process of mapping your data appropriately. So we don't have middleware that connects the systems, but on a very granular basis, you can determine what data writes into Salesforce and how. So this is just showing you the Springboard system as embedded in the Salesforce dashboard. We have single sign-on, so for your administrators, if they're using Salesforce already, it's kind of part of their single user experience. So, there's basic dashboard here around your authoring experience. There is basic reporting in Springboard, but I'll show you that most of the reporting is really done in Salesforce because that's a powerful platform for doing dashboarding and analytics already. So in the authoring experience, let's look at you're authoring a donation form, let's say. That's the primary use case. So as we've illustrated, our system is very flexible and configurable, but at the same time, we also make it easy for non-technical users to operate the system and to create new donation forms once you've set up the templates that give your users the experience that they want. So this is, again, you have a rich text editor here. for editing the information that appears on the page. And there are the basic settings around what types of gifts are offered here. Are you going to be offering monthly and one time, or just one or the other? By default, we encourage clients to set different ask amounts for one time and monthly, and those are set right here in a purely text-based interface. So no coding required to create those features. There's also the ability, as I mentioned, to enable processing fees on the form. The other feature I mentioned was enabling these upsells for a sustainer upsell. And that, again, is a feature that in other systems, could be kind of a highly complex customization where a developer is required to modify that, and that we make those types of features available here for, again, non-technical administrators. So that's a high, so that's just a quick view of some of the, form authoring. As I mentioned, our system writes directly into Salesforce. So as you can see, that's an aspect of the field mapping is built right into the form configuration. So typically, this is going to be set once. And every time you clone a form, the same mapping will be invoked. But I just wanted to demonstrate that you have the ability on a form by form basis to determine how your data is written into Salesforce. On the advocacy side, we have, again, the ability to author content. And again, this is kind of in a preview mode here. Sorry, I think I went to the wrong one. There we go. So in this message, again, I showed you some prettier examples of advocacy forms, but we understand that when you're doing advocacy, it often requires you to be thoughtful about what messages are being sent to which decision makers. And so just wanted to, for example, mention that, in a form like this, you can look at the message delivery. You can set you can author these forms as a non-technical user. You can enable different types of salutations. Salutations, of course, as folks who do advocacy know, can be sort of a thorny topic. The Mr. Mrs. In an era when gender identity is evolving, U.S. Congress is still sort of setting some of those requirements there. You can select different user flows. Again, a non-technical author can do this. You can preset the legislative issues that will route these to the appropriate legislative assistant and so on. So don't have time for a full walkthrough of the whole features of our advocacy tool, but did want to just be able to show at a high level. Another feature in Springboard that's really important is the ability to track source. So this is kind of a little bit of an eye chart here, but for nonprofits that are investing a lot in their outbound outreach, you're doing social, you're doing paid social, you're doing different advertising, and you want to be able to measure what's working. So our system allows you to not only we capture the Google Analytics data, and I'll show you that in a transaction, but we have our own market source tagging that allows you to not only tag the source of the transaction at the time it was transacted, but the first touch. So let's say somebody was searching for an issue on Google, they came to your site, they looked around a little bit, maybe they took an action alert, and then on the thank you page for the action alert, they made a donation. So you could configure it so that you were capturing that first touch through a Google search, and then the last touch, which was the thank you for the advocacy. So let's go ahead. Jenny, anything else you I should mention here in the Springboard interface before we go to the Salesforce?
No, I'll throw in that on the source coding, it's highly flexible in terms of exactly what URL parameters you want to track. You can have as many as you'd like. So if you have custom ones, feel free to add those at any time. And this is always something we can work with clients to customize however makes sense for their tracking needs.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And as I mentioned, the UTMs, we capture those directly into the system as well. So you can analyze obviously within Google Analytics, but it's captured as part of your transaction data. So let me get into Salesforce. So I know some folks who are watching may be familiar with Salesforce already, some may not, but basically it's a business CRM designed for business to business that has over the years developed a large community practice with nonprofits. They have a Power of Us program that donates licenses to nonprofits, and they have a nonprofit success pack, which is a data model and that's designed to capture nonprofit specific fundraising activity. So within Salesforce, we've built out numerous dashboards here that are, again, built around monitoring what nonprofits do. So you have giving by form, and these are just different examples. This could be customized to each donate, every nonprofit, and you can modify them over time. These are capabilities that exist in the Salesforce platform, and we leverage those. And again, that's part of what our philosophy. So, for example, if you're really wanting to look at the sustainer upsells and how is that working, again, here's the dashboard that will show you on a form by form basis. Oh, that Save Old Smoky page is really, rocking it. You can click down, you can drill down into the actual data here and look at some examples. If you want to just overall look at sustainers by source, you can, again, you can build different reports that are going to group things by market source type and other factors. Another way to look at the capabilities of Springboard and this tight integration with Salesforce and how that enables personalization is to look at a specific contact record. We're looking at a sample record of Jenny's. So what we see here is really a basic, it's a sort of a flat contact record, but it has different aspects that have been tweaked through the Nonprofit Success Pack and as well as the Springboard package. So we'll see donation information. So these are roll-up fields. This is not an actual donation, but it's tracking a lot of information about that summarize the giving activity for this record. You can see soft credits, sustaining giving. Then some of the market source information, as we were mentioning here, you can see which, where the person came in from. And again, look at how that benefits you over time, what the lifetime value is of people that came in through different sources. The autofill that I mentioned earlier, these are features that are built into Springboard that help enable that. And this is all encrypted in a way that it's secure, but yet it invokes the ability to personalize the content for them. As you can see, you have ask strings that are embedded here. And this can be used for one-click donation as well as sustainer upgrades. So then the last piece to just touch on here is an actual donation record. So that's a different database object in Salesforce. And again, that's something that's part of the Nonprofit Success Pack where we also modify it in some ways. So this enables you to really drill down and capture a lot of information on the sources. Again, so we would see that the initial market source for this gift was an email, and then the final was from About Us. So maybe the person clicked on an email, they browsed around the site, but then they were compelled once they actually read the mission of the organization and identified with it, that kind of thing. And again, we see here that the Google terms, the Google UTMs are all captured in this system. Just briefly, this is a bit of an eye chart, but again, this just demonstrates the kind of integration that we have between the Nonprofit Success Pack and our data model. And we can share that with interested folks later at some point, but we've done a lot of work to carefully harmonize those to enable that level of personalization and support. Jenny, is there anything else with the few minutes we have left that we should make sure and touch on in terms of the Salesforce reporting or anything else?
I'll just say that, you know, earlier, Seth, you highlighted the mapping between Springboard and Salesforce. That's something we'll set up with you during your implementation. Then typically it can, you know, just live on an ongoing basis as you clone things, as you mentioned. But it's also highly flexible. So at any time, if there's additional information you want to track that's critical for your reporting or comes up new, that can always be added directly into that mapping interface and will sync down into your appropriate Salesforce objects. And all that can be done without any engagement from our team. So what Seth has highlighted here is kind of some of the core things we sync over to Salesforce, but there's a lot more that you can do as makes sense based on your organizational needs.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. So I think that, you know, that pretty much wraps it up. I guess I can get back to the slideshow. And again, just kind of closing, you know, what I think I've helped to demonstrate what we do, but we help nonprofits to transact in a very flexible and robust way so that they can track their information in one place and really personalize that outreach at scale to create meaningful and valuable relationships that sustain the organization over time. So.
Awesome.
Any other questions that came in, Taylor?
Yeah, another question came in. Have you considered a feature that offers directories, such as a public directory of resources, a public directory of organizations, or contacts? So I'm kind of thinking maybe you're a healthcare organization and you have a director of, you know, providers that provide services in a particular area, maybe as an example. Do you have anything like that that could provide a listing?
Jenny, I'll yield the floor to you on that.
So we don't have anything like that today, though it's certainly something we could talk through. What we do have is the ability to provide a legislator lookup for your constituents. So if you wanted to provide a form where folks could look up to see the contact information from their legislators, either federal, state, or local, that can be powered by Springboard. So we have a little bit of the starting point for that, and certainly could talk about how else that might be expanded based on what the needs would be.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. All right, Marcus, thanks. Good questions today, Marcus. So I'm really excited that you guys came and showed us Springboard today and like how it fits into this Salesforce CRM ecosystem, right? And all of the different pieces that work together, because I think it's particularly great to have you guys here talking about this, because a lot of organizations are looking at potential moves to the Salesforce ecosystem, right? Like I hear that a lot come up in conversations with our clients at Firefly. And it's great to sort of understand how the different pieces work together. And even you, Seth, just showing things like the progressive, you know, form fills and stuff like that. That's really part of making that digital experience better for people when they land on your website and they land on your forums. So really appreciate you showing everything off today. I'll just close us out. I'll share my screen again real quick to close us out. If you have any questions and you want to get in touch about digital tools for your organization, shoot me an email. I'm taylor@fireflypartners.com. And if you go to our website, fireflypartners.com, you can download the Nonprofit Digital Marketing Tools. We featured Springboard in it. That's why Seth and his team and Jenny here are part of talking today about some of the latest and greatest with what their tools do. So thank you all for joining in.